This conference will now be recorded.
Terrific, everybody. All right, so welcome to June 30th Select Board meeting, the Town of Monterey. Present, myself, Stephen Weiss, the chair.
John Weingold, present remotely.
Justin Maycook, present remotely.
Okay. So as I mentioned to everybody, there is a giant storm heading this way. If for some reason we have technical difficulties or something like that, we'll try to plow through them. Let's jump right in, as this is the last day of the fiscal year, with internal transfer requests. I have several of them. The first being from the Monterey Library, transfer from library wages to library maintenance for the sum of $535. Do I get anybody want to second that? I move that we transfer from library wages to library maintenance, $535.
Second.
Okay, we're just going to vote these things, folks, because it's not really a discussion matter unless somebody has an extreme reaction to any of them. So Stephen Weiss votes yes.
I vote yes.
I'm going to recuse myself because of regarding library wages. My father being a librarian, library director.
Fair enough. Justin, okay, that's a good idea. So are we going to need two signatures on this?
Yes, we are.
John, you're going to have to come in and sign this in order to transfer the funds because Justin has to recuse himself. The next.
Electronically, I'll sign it.
I'm sorry?
Send it to me electronically, I'll sign it. I'll sign it right now.
I don't think we have the ability to send documents for electronic signature.
Yeah, we don't have electronic signatures.
We don't have an electronic signature. You're actually going to have to physically come in and sign this document. The next request is a transfer from snow and ice to fuel for $769.70. I move that we. Sorry?
Go ahead.
I move that we transfer from the snow and ice account to the fuel account, $769.70. Do I have a second?
Well,
Second.
Okay. Okay, I vote yes. Stephen Weiss votes yes.
didn't we just do this last meeting?
Yes. Well, there are lots of year-end transfers. When one department goes over, but they need they can get money from another department in their department.
I know we did snow and ice to fuel last meeting. Why is it again this meeting?
Because the fuel tank has to be filled every 1 to 2 weeks.
So the fuel budget is done for the year?
That is correct. And as I said last year, I reminded everybody that should be at least $5,000 more, and every year I get shot down.
All right, so we're going to make a note of that.
Justin Maycook, yes.
Okay. John Weingold, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, there's that one. Here's another one from the Monterey Library. Transfer from library wages to library general for $180. I move that we transfer from library wages to library general for $180. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
Yes.
And
Recuse.
Yes. Okay. No problem. So, John, here's another one that I'm going to need your assistance on. The next transfer is from snow and ice account to public lighting for $10. So therefore, I make a motion that we transfer from snow and ice account to public lighting the amount of $10. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. They get $10 because otherwise I would have had to kick it in. Okay. The next one is a transfer from select board expenses to legal expenses for the amount of $1,851.80. That's for overages on legal expenses. So I make a motion that we transfer from select board expenses to legal expenses, the amount of $1,851.80. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
What caused the overage?
Lawyers.
The current lawsuits with Hume and Elephant Rock Road.
Legal expenses can be high. So I vote yes.
Yes.
I vote no.
So you're voting, you don't want to pay the lawyers?
No, because there's no explanation of what caused the overage other than we already appropriated $5,000 for expenses for the
Those
litigation.
were all sent to
So
you, John.
here's an invoice from the attorneys. I would recommend that if the attorney send an invoice that we pay it. I don't understand.
All you need is 2 votes. You don't need my vote to pay him.
I'm just trying to understand why somebody would vote against paying an invoice for an attorney. I'm just wondering.
Because it was appropriated. I'm wondering why he went over the $5,000 that he asked for those litigations. Just because he sends an invoice doesn't mean it's
When he
my
originally
vote.
asked,
I'm not going to retract my vote. Sorry.
when he originally asked for the $5,000, he was very clear that that was just an estimate and it could go over. And especially with COVID, they weren't sure when the court cases were going to be heard. Just like the number for this year is an estimate.
It would have been fine and dandy if he had given us a report on what actually happened at the trial and if he put any evidence at the court, which he didn't. So
He's coming in on the 21st to do just that.
oh, good.
Okay,
So you don't read my emails.
having two, it's passed. The next one is a transfer from snow and ice, salt and sand to public lighting for the amount of $126.76. I make a motion to transfer from snow and ice, salt and sand to public lighting the amount of $126.76. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
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 Okay, terrific. Pay the light bill. The next one is, and by the way, there are bills attached to all of these items and in town hall for people's review. The last one is to transfer from snow and ice to public lighting the amount of $329.76. Therefore, I make a motion to transfer from snow and ice to public lighting the amount of $329.76. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a second, I vote yes.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Lights stay on. Okay, that concludes the internal transfer requests portion of this evening. Item number B, shared human resource update and revised job description. Does everybody have that document?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we all met last week. Great Barrington is going to be the lead town. We should have a draft copy of the intermunicipal agreement within the next 2 to 3 weeks, as Mark is on vacation right at the moment. The plan is to post the job on July 12th. Resumes will be due on the 2nd and hire shortly thereafter.
How long will it be posted for?
from July 12th to August 2nd.
Oh. Okay. I don't see any, I mean, so again, for public edification, this is a five-town
Correct.
group that's pooling their resources to hire a full-time human resources director that will serve each of the five towns. This type of arrangement has been promoted both by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and local government because it's combining services. Basically, it's too expensive for small towns to pay for a lot of these individuals. So this is going to be a pilot program for human resources director, which I think is going to be a terrific, something that we need here in Monterey. And we're going to see how it works. I'm sure there will be adjustments along the way. Okay.
Is everybody okay with the edits to the job description?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I've got no problem with that. All right, just sign.
John?
I have no opinion.
So 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0. Vadar, okay, my favorite. So Vadar is accounting software that we use here in the town of Monterey. This was actually this is an upgrade from the system that we were using many years ago, and I was on the board many years ago when we enlisted Vadar. So this is a contract renewal for their systems, and I move that we accept their contract renewal. When does it begin?
July 1st.
July 1st.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Anybody have any questions about Vadar?
Maybe you should tell the public how much it's going to cost them.
It's on the town meeting warrant. I believe it's $5,950 that was approved by the town.
It's already been raised and appropriated. Every town needs to have a certain software, and Vadar has been what we've been using. So I move that we accept the contract from Vadar Systems.
It's already seconded.
Oh, so you already seconded it? So I vote yes.
Yes.
I vote yes.
Okay, we got 3 yeses. All right. Berkshire County Dispatch Contract Renewal, which is here, one piece of paper. Again, from the term of July 1st to June 30th. And is this so is this the correct amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Also on the warrant.
Okay, so the town did vote an agreement. Did vote to raise and appropriate $11,177.09 for emergency communication services, and so therefore I move that we accept this contract, this one-year contract for emergency communication services. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I say aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
2 pages on this one. 2 little sticky note you didn't sign.
Okay. Oh, no, you have to sign that too. All right. Well, let me sign this. Okay. The next item is a meeting agenda posting policy draft. Everybody received that?
Yes, the copy you have in front of you has edits from Justin included. Nobody else sent me any.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Justin, and your edits were essentially what were the am I missing something? I don't see it.
What's my edits? Not me.
Oh, at least,
I think he just kind of made it simpler.
oh, you just made it simple. Oh, just at least 48 hours prior to meeting time. You changed the word. You added at least.
Yeah, I added in a chain of how you can get there, starting from the town website, just what buttons you click on, as well as you can just go to the URL. I just tried to clarify a little bit that I think it already said it, but I just tried to clarify for folks that the website will be the legal posting place, and we'll try to keep up to date with the bulletin board, but for the convenience of the public. But the legal posting place is the website. That was my main edits.
Okay, that's fine with me. We voted that at last meeting, as I recall. You know, I mean, the easier we can make it for people to post meetings, the better, in my opinion. So I move this policy statement as it's been edited. I make a motion to accept it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is it clear in the document who has the authority to post the agendas?
Yes, it's clear that when you submit the online form on the town website to post the meeting, it goes to the town administrator and the town clerk, and the town administrator puts it on the website, which is our official legal posting place, and the town clerk, I believe, puts it on the bulletin board as a convenience to the public, but that's not a necessary posting place. I think that's clear in the document.
Okay.
So I vote yes.
Yes.
I'm going to vote no because the town clerk is supposed to be posting the agendas, not the town administrator.
Fair enough. 2-0. Okay, 2-1. That's fine. Let's continue. Special article carry forwards. These are required to carry forward funds that were raised and appropriated that have not been spent. I'm going to spare you the account number and just read the description and the amount to carry forward. The first one is town hall fencing for $5,000. The second one is the two highway Freightliner vehicles for $460,000. Now these were already raised and appropriated. They're just money sitting in the account, but because we're at the end of the fiscal year, we have to move it forward. The next one is highway garage siding for $29,854.86. The next one is Route 23 main enhanced flood. What's that?
Culvert out here.
Is a culvert? Okay, the Route 23 culvert. That's $20,000. Even the next one is Monterey school expenses. That's $5,771.58. And the last one is Eurasian milfoil elimination for Dash, and that's $2,080. The total amount is $522,627.24. I move that these items be carried forward to the next fiscal year. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
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 Okay.
And then I need to have your, if you don't want to answer tonight, that's fine, but to think about if you want to carry forward the $750 for the broadband agreement, $35,646.94 for the broadband consulting. Those were originally created in 2016.
Right.
The 750 was for the polls, which I don't believe we need now, so I would recommend that you don't carry it forward. And the broadband consulting was to help with
with the document, actually,
Right.
for technical assistance with the document. The document has been signed. Now, if we vote not to carry that forward, it goes into free cash for us to use for other things, perhaps. Since they've been raised and appropriated, that would make sense. I would make a motion that we that we do not carry forward the two specific broadband-related items and allow those funds to go back into free cash. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous.
Just updating you on the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, which was the entity we get our accounting services through. They did put it out for a rebid, but they ran into some difficulties and had to update and improve their process. So there's been a few delays, and they have extended the contract with Eric Hinscher for 1 month to allow for completion of the new and improved bid process. And I will keep you posted as soon as I have more information.
Okay. But I mean, the program is working for us. So
Yes.
nothing we have to vote for. The item number 2, clerk office coverage. So I'm glad this is on the agenda. Basically, we had a situation where a town resident needed to obtain some death certificates, and the clerk was on vacation at the time. Now, obviously, this is more of a timing thing than anything else. However, it did raise an interesting challenge that we might want to have a discussion as a board. We can either do it today or we can do it at a future board meeting. And basically, the idea is general coverage for the clerk when she is away, or in general coverage from the clerk in general. Now, I did have a discussion with the clerk personally and asked her for her recommendations on how to get coverage in case we run into this problem, this challenge again. She made 2 very good suggestions, and perhaps somebody can follow up with her. One of them is more of a temporary solution, but some towns do make arrangements with other town clerks to kind of fill in if something needs to be if a state document needs to be procured, which is this will be in this case, and that's only on an as needed basis. The other thing is kind of a more of a longer term strategy where we have had in the past an assistant town clerk, and we've had some wonderful folks that have been filling in as assistant and being paid as assistant town clerk, but no one is interested in actually. It's my understanding that no one's interested in that position, and as a board, we should think about maybe advertising or putting together. Do we have a job description for assistant town clerk? If we don't have a job description, putting one together for assistant town clerk and seeing if we can obtain the services of one. The reason why this is important is because town clerks and assistant town clerks need to be trained, and before they can use equipment that's specific to the state. Again, I think we're going to run into this situation in the future. So I would be interested in what the other board members think about one of them or the other or both.
Well, my opinion is I am not sure legally how another town clerk can sign a death certificate in another town. So I think, the prior select board caused this problem because they took away the town clerk's assistant and labeled it town clerk staff. So staff cannot act when the town clerk is in town. And I have spoken to Terry as well, and she didn't mention anything about another town clerk, but she did mention that she would like an assistant back. So that would be my recommendation, is that but how are you going to fund it? There's no appropriations for an assistant. So
But there is a line.
There's a line, and that line was actually changed from assistant to town clerk staff by Terry. She requested that.
Okay, so the town clerk did request that the change in the demarcation of a town clerk and state. So your statement is not correct. As far as but there is a line item for it.
How much is it?
And How much is in the account? We're going to find it right now.
Did you read any documents?
Just guessing more. Okay. Now, and by the way, it was Terry that mentioned that they do make these agreements with other town clerks. So I believe as long as that they are licensed within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that they are indeed allowed to do that. There might have to be some kind of agreement drafted. But if Terry tells me that this other towns are doing it, well, I mean, we can certainly check it out. But I mean, I would assume that Terry knows what she's talking about.
You would hope so.
I'm curious as to the urgency of things that need to happen through the town clerk. I actually was town clerk staff earlier this year, and I think there's a lot of important things, obviously, that happen through the town clerk. I'm just not sure how urgent they are that we need to fill in if someone's gone for a week. It seemed to me a lot of the things that the town clerk does can happen in a week after they are back from vacation. But I could be missing something. I think it's probably best to always have someone in the town clerk's office, but also it's only a 19 something hour a week position, so it's not like we assume there's going to be someone there all the time. So we might be able to look into something. I don't know how important it is to have someone there every time the town clerk's on vacation, because the town clerk's a part-time position to begin with. So,
well, it's all about somebody. Mostly gonna have to help me. Excuse me for 1 second. Somebody's left their mic on. I believe it's. So again, it's we're trying to provide services for the folks in town, and this particular situation is, yes, I will agree that it doesn't happen often, but but it's the idea of having coverage. So, but
yeah, hi, this is Mickey.
oh, I'm sorry, Mickey. Yes, you don't. Yes, Mickey.
I'm trying to think back.
All right.
I remember when my parents died, you do sometimes need those death certificates to do various things, and I don't remember what they were, why we needed them. But, maybe somebody would need, I don't know, do you need one to bury somebody? Do you need to have the death certificate first? So, it might be that you really do need, there could be a time factor on that. And Terry could probably answer that question.
Mickey, I talked to Terry earlier, and I believe the answer to your question as far as death certificates is that you need a burial certificate to bury, which is not done by the town clerk, to my understanding. A death certificate helps you get money from wills and stuff like that, close out bank accounts.
That's what we needed it for. Yep, I'm sorry. You're right, Justin. That's what we needed it for. I just couldn't remember. I knew we had to get them, extra ones even.
Yeah. No, I mean, and they're all important things to happen, right? I just don't know if it's urgent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea is okay. So the idea is about general coverage. The town did vote in how much money? I'm sorry, almost $4,933. We do have $4,933 for an assistant town clerk, which we could certainly look for. And then the idea is also, it's always good to have an assistant town clerk, somebody who's trained in case the town clerk is unable or to fulfill their obligations at some point, or they're on vacation. It would only benefit the folks in Monterey. My suggestion would be that at a minimum, we review a job description for the assistant town clerk, and then at another meeting, we decide whether or not we want to advertise for an assistant town clerk, so that somebody can be in there and trained for it.
Well, do we have the authority? Doesn't Terry appoint her assistant, or do we?
we're the hiring authority of the town.
You certain about that? For the
Yes.
town clerk?
Yes, I'm the guy that hired the town clerk.
Well, I would be happy to work with the town clerk to find pragmatic solutions for this and discuss about what is the urgent nature of some of the town clerk items and whether vacation coverage is important. And I'd be happy to work with the town clerk and figure out what's going on in her office and what she wants and needs to help serve the people of Monterey. And I think in general, she's done a really good job at cleaning up that office and getting us on track. So I'd be happy to work with her and see what she thinks moving forward, because I know she has some help that she thinks is good help. And after I left the office, of course.
Oh, I didn't realize you were in the office, Justin. Okay.
Yeah, earlier this year I worked town clerk staff, probably January and February.
Okay, Susan.
And I had to leave to come do this.
Susan's got her. Oh, sorry. Susan's got her hand up.
I just wanted to check in. So you guys, there was money, a line item passed at town meeting for the assistant. Justin, are you suggesting the assistant isn't necessary, or do you
No,
just?
so what it is there's town clerk staff and there's 2-3 different people who help out Terry, especially she has one most reliable person and they've been helping her out for a while. And I think what we're talking about now is whether it would be good to have like one person who is the assistant and who has more hours and who takes on some more of the responsibility instead of what the current situation.
Who's trained?
Yeah, it does seem to me that having someone who is willing to take on more responsibility, but also therefore gets more training, so you have a backup, and I mean, things happen, right? Having a backup person isn't a bad idea. Yeah, that person could fill in on vacations, but in general, it might be a sensible idea if Terry wants that. It doesn't mean that even if you had that, does it mean she has to not have the other assistants? Are they incompatible?
Well, we only got so much money to work with. And I think another thing, just from my perspective, is in some ways a lot of the things the town clerk does are important. But it's like, if you can't necessarily, you might be able to. I'd be happy to talk to Terry about this, but how many people can you have working on?
So I believe the cost-effective use of my personal opinion is the cost-effective use of taxpayer funds is to have somebody that is trained, fully trained, and has the ability to jump in if the need be, as opposed to a bunch of small staff positions. What I would suggest is that I would like to, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to circulate a job description for the assistant town clerk for the board to review. At the same time, I would suggest that the board members individually have a discussion with the town clerk to talk about this as well, and then we put it on the agenda for the next meeting and have a discussion about it.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at a job description you write up for his assistant town clerk and work on this to try to find a good solution for the people who use the clerk and everyone involved.
Right. Great.
Okay. To carry on this discussion a little further, and I know there's laws in Massachusetts. I know we try not to, I won't say that, but Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 19. I'll quote. Section 19 says, "The town clerk may in writing appoint an assistant clerk who shall be sworn to do the faithful performance of his duties and the record shall be made of the appointment and oath. So, she has the ability, and she has under the law to appoint an assistant. So a job description, if Terry wants an assistant, she's got $4,000. I make a motion that we, as a select board, give her the authority to appoint an assistant town clerk. It's what the law says.
Why don't you send that Mass General Law ruling to the board members so that we can review that?
It's not a ruling, it's just the statute, which I
Okay.
said before. You
Okay.
said, no, you have the authority. It's actually the town clerk.
John,
I will
also,
send it to you.
you
Will you
got
open
me.
it and read it, Steve?
You got me. Oh my God.
No.
Yes.
if we're
Gotcha.
if we're serious about this as well with an assistant town clerk, we might want to ask for more money at town meeting, because trying to get a trained, reliable person for under $5,000 a year might be a tough ask.
Right. And again,
Sure.
it bears. We have a responsibility as a select board to make prudent decisions for the benefit of the town, of the people of Monterey. And that includes the research necessary to determine what type of assistant town clerk, what their job description actually is, what we'd like them to do in the event that the town clerk is not available. So this is within the purview of the select board to do that. And my recommendation was that the town members, that the select board get informed about the issue, and therefore we can make intelligent decisions. Shall we move on, or
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan? Okay, good. Item number 3. Brian, so there is a request to appoint Brian Dillon as probationary firefighter. And that request, I'm assuming, is made by the chief, fire chief. Therefore, I make a motion to appoint Brian Dillon as probationary firefighter for the town of Monterey. Do I have a second?
What town does he live in?
He lives in New Marlboro.
I thought that the charter for the fire department says only firefighters that live in Monterey can serve on the fire department.
We have other firefighters that are not. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't. We have other firefighters that in the town of Monterey that do not live in the town of Monterey.
I think Chris Eisner is an appointed firefighter, and Nate, last name starts with an M, is an appointed firefighter, that both don't have Monterey as their primary residence.
Quite frankly, if my house was on fire,
Frankly,
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care where they came from, as long as they helped put it out.
I care because
the idea that
Monterey taxpayers, which we have a duty to protect, shouldn't be paying out-of-town people to be on the fire department, when the fire department's own bylaws and whatever it's called, articles of organization, say you have to be a Monterey resident to be on the fire department.
If we were to restrict the firefighters to only the ones in Monterey, in the next 10 years, you're going to have 3 people show up at your house. So this is if you want to talk about protecting the taxpayers of Monterey, I'll personally take all the firefighters that we can get that we can train, and then we can make sure they're going to save lives and property in Monterey. And I don't care where they're from. And I think to suggest that they have to be from Monterey in a town of 964 full-time residents is not a good way to go.
Does Susan have a hand?
Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. Sorry.
Don't apologize. You have just as much right to talk as I do.
It felt like a good moment for a speech. So
no problem. Listen, John, are you suggesting that you think that is the way it should be, or are you suggesting that maybe the fire company needs to look at its own, I'm not sure what they be, rules, bylaws, articles of incorporation, whatever those are, and if that's still the case, it says you have to be a Monterey resident, they need to rethink that? Because those are 2 separate things. I have to completely agree with Steve. It's an absurd notion that only because we just don't have the young people that are willing to serve. So either you're suggesting on general principle, or you're saying we should just forget having a fire company and hope someone from, I don't know, Pittsfield gets here in time to rescue people. Or it's just a matter of crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and you're suggesting the fire company should make sure their rules reflect what they need to actually do. I'd just like you to clarify that.
I'm clarifying. Last year we had 2 people from Beckett appointed to the fire department. It takes 25 minutes to get from Beckett to Monterey. The only reason these people are appointed to the fire department in Monterey is because they get paid a lot of money to be on a call or sleep over at the firehouse to watch movies. And the Monterey taxpayers are paying for out-of-town people to be on the fire department. That's my first complaint. My second complaint is if you have articles of organization for a corporation that says firefighters that are on the department in Monterey need to live in Monterey, yeah, I have a problem with that from a legal standpoint. Yes, I do. On both topics. So it's not a technical point. It's, following the law, which, as we all know, this town doesn't like to do that at all, ever.
Well, so first of all, I should mention to the ill-informed that the stayover policy that's implemented by the Monterey Fire Company is to ensure just that whatever firefighters, especially firefighters that are not that don't live close by, when it's their shift, they are here and they are ready to help save your life. And as far as the other thing goes, hey, you know what? This is very interesting. We should talk to if this is the case of the bylaws of the Monterey Fire Company, then I agree they should be amended, because we are running out of people to serve as emergency services. And by the way, I should also mention this. It's important that all the people from fire company be in Monterey. Our officers here, our police department, a lot of them are not from Monterey. That's emergency services as well. The bottom line is we're trying to protect life and property. That is a job of of town government. And again, quite frankly, and I've heard some really wonderful stories about how there are a lot of people that actually owe their lives to the Monterey Fire Company. And so I don't care where somebody is from personally. And yeah, it's worth the taxpayer dollars to get people in there and get some fresh people in there. So I make a motion. Sorry,
Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
This is Nancy Tomasevich.
Nancy.
Well, how are you? Hope you're well. The articles of incorporation were put in obviously for a reason. And if you had residents of Monterey, you wouldn't have to have the taxpayers pay additional dollars to have a sleepover if they're a resident of Monterey. However, if you're not able to have somebody from the town of Monterey, as you say, you have a crystal ball, you'll know in 10 years we won't have anyone, even though there's been a giant influx of people moving into the Berkshires. So that may not necessarily be true. And I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do you.
We never
So
know.
here's the next point. If anybody is hired who lives outside of Monterey, when it's their evening, they would be paid, but the people who live in town don't need to be staying overnight at the firehouse and cost the taxpayers more money.
So actually, Nancy, so it's my understanding that it's slightly incorrect. The idea of being at the firehouse is not just to sleep over; it's also for training as well. So that includes people that actually live in Monterey, even if they live in the house next door. They actually stay over. They get training. It's part of the training, and then they're there on their duty shift. So it's
Okay.
it's not.
So how often is that training?
Every night.
Every night.
Every night. I would suggest maybe having
Every
the
night.
chief.
We'll have how about this? We'll have the fire chief.
No. So
chief
they literally have training every single night at the firehouse, or people
Yes.
sleep there every single night at the firehouse?
So they have 4 people every night at the firehouse that do 4-person trainings. So when they are rotating their shifts, there's always 4 people there. Once a month, I believe, or once every 3 months, they do a full department training.
Justin, feel free. You're on the fire company. I mean, do you stay over when it's your shift or no?
I do not
No.
participate in the sleepover program, but that doesn't say anything about my stance on it as a select board member. I did file a public disclosure form 23.
Right.
B3, not particularly in relation to this because I didn't know it was going to go in this direction.
Gotcha.
But just in general that I am a paid, well, that will be our next, that's
Gotcha.
going to be on the agenda.
All right, that's right. Actually, it's unfair of me to ask Justin. Sorry, I apologize, Justin.
No, it's
You know
fine.
what we'll do, folks? We're going to have, well, first I'm going to want to have a vote on this particular appointment. However, I'd be more than happy to put the fire chief on the agenda and have the fire chief come in and answer all of your questions. Is that okay with everybody? Or no?
Yes.
We'll have an argument.
Sure.
Okay. So I move that we appoint Brian Dillon as probationary firefighter for the town of Monterey. Do I have a second? Oh, it's already seconded? All right. Then I vote yes.
Before you vote, don't we have a right to be heard? Right?
What would you like to say, Don?
You're not,
Yes,
very
please,
simple.
please.
You are not appointing somebody to the fire company. You are appointing somebody to the fire department.
Thank you.
And we don't have any rules in Monterey that a member of our fire department has to live in town. John's argument is nonsense. It's to the fire department you're appointing him.
Okay. All right. So we're going to work out the parameters of this, folks. But in the meantime, let's appoint this. Let's appoint this fellow. Yes or no? So I vote yes. Nobody else? Any other positive
No.
votes?
I vote yes.
I vote
bring
no.
it here.
Okay, and you vote no.
This
All right.
conference will now be recorded.
Oh, welcome to
Caller number 2.
welcome to the Twilight Zone.
Just left the meeting.
Okay. Getting back to Justin, you're next up. Item number 4 of simplifying agenda items.
Yes. Well, Don sent us an email to the select board. He sent a couple of emails, but one of the ones that he sent was about our agenda items being very lengthy and sharing opinions in them. And I would just say that I would agree that some of our agenda items for the select board meetings have been excessively long. And I think just going forward, I'd be happy. Like if I send in a very long agenda item, I'd be happy. I'd be happy if Steve, when you're setting the agenda, to simplify it as you see fit to just the topic that we're going to talk about as specific as we need it. That way we can have the discussion and share our opinions in this meeting rather than on the agenda. So I just thought I would respond to Don's public communication and say that going forward, I'd be happy if the chair setting the agenda, I know we agreed that all of the agenda items that any select board member wanted to be added would be on there, and I like that policy. I just think that I'm happy with, as long as, it maintains the substance of what we need to talk about. The agenda items, are just a brief, just are the topic rather than opinion statements themselves about the topic.
Do you want to form that into a motion?
If we're fine moving forward, acting in that manner, then I don't know if we need to make a official motion. This is the first time it's been brought up, to my knowledge.
Why are you taking recommendations from a former select board member? Why are you taking recommendations on how to vote and what to put on the agenda from Don? That's what I'd like to
Well,
know.
it was a public communication, and I agree with it. And
So,
I
so,
just
That's
think,
an
as a
example of what you're
board,
talking about.
so,
what's
so
that, John?
John, so I should mention, John, we're taking suggestions from John Silbert, who's a former select board member. What's the difference between John Silbert and Don Coburn? As a matter of fact,
Well,
I,
there's some differences,
My
but I would,
understanding is that two people in town are trying to influence justice on
I
what he
see.
votes on, and I have
no,
a
I'm
problem
not
with that.
sorry. I misspoke. I really misspoke. Because I'm
Yeah,
not
I'll
saying
say
this
you
because
did.
Don told me to say it.
Right.
I'm saying this because I agree with it, which is that as on the board, I'm part of a 3-person board, and to keep our agendas what they are supposed to be, let's just keep,
What does that
what
mean?
agendas is, what?
Okay, what does that mean? Because
When,
the agendas are supposed to inform the public of what's going to be discussed. It can't be
yes,
just
what's going to be discussed.
generalizations. I
So,
mean,
I think
every agenda
exactly.
is almost an open meeting law violation, for God's sakes.
so
What's that? I didn't claim it's an open meeting law violation. I'm just saying that I want our agenda topics to be what's going to be discussed, and we can have the discussion here. So instead of putting a thesis statement in the agenda, whether it's the person sending it in or the chair setting the agenda or anyone else, I'd rather have it just be what a general idea of what's going to be discussed, not what individual members are going to say about that topic. That's all. I think it's pretty standard, pretty.
right, and the chairs have done this in the past, and I'd be willing to put in the time and effort necessary to make these meetings more succinct and move them along, despite my speech making on occasion. So, Justin, I agree with you. It sounds like we're going to have to make a motion about it, though, because it sounds like Mr. Weingold is not on board with it. So
I don't understand I don't understand what the point is.
I can tell you,
What do you
John.
mean
Okay,
more?
one of our agenda items for today is let me I had one.
Okay.
If you're going to take direction from Don and Melissa, we're going to
I'm
have a
not
serious
taking
problem.
direction from
Yeah,
anyone,
you
John.
are. Yeah, you are. Yes,
One
you
of our
are.
agenda items for today is posting of meetings agendas on town website. States the agendas will be posted by town clerk who has no access to website to post agendas or even the town clerk page. Discuss to change this policy to allow town clerk to legally post all agendas as the law provides for each department have control of its own page. List each select board email address on their page, take TA off the select board page and move TA to her website page. And so I would say, if you put discuss to change policy to this, and you just say what you want the policy to be changed to, I don't think that's what our agenda should look like. I think our agenda should say, first, you could change that one to website access by town employees or something, town officials. And then we would talk about what we want the policy to be changed to, instead of putting in the agenda what we want the policy to be changed to. That's all. It's not from anyone else other than my mouth. It's from my mouth. And I think that's a good way to just do business. I think it's good practice. That's all.
Well, it's also good practice to do old business before new business, but we don't do that either.
Well, I will be happy to. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So actually, because there are so many agenda items that have been added, and because they are quite lengthy, we have not been able to get through all the agenda items in previous select board meetings. Therefore, because of that, town business must come first, because
But
that's basically
that's
what
not.
we're here for. We're here to do town business. The rest of it is just policies. But right now we have to, and we have to get some things done in this town. So listen.
Well, Steve, to comment on that, I agree with you. Having transfers at the beginning of the meeting is good, but I sent in two agenda items, public communications from select board members and order of articles at town meeting. And they're now at the end. And the two that I sent those in a meeting or two ago, and the ones that I sent in for this meeting are at the beginning, before all of John's old ones, before all of mine. And I don't know that I understand having transfers first and that kind of business first, but I don't understand why my simplifying agenda items is before all of John's old articles and before my articles that are at the way end.
I disagree. I disagree. It's a jumbled mess. And if you would allow the chair to order them in the order of urgency, there would be a different order. So.
Well, I don't know what the order is now.
I don't know. No one knows what the order is now, because the idea here is, Justin, is that because I acquiesced to allow the board to add agenda items as opposed to the previous administration, because I did that, I've got a feeling that I've been taken advantage of a little bit here, because now in each agenda we have 20 so agenda items.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them have been carried over from meeting to meeting to meeting.
Right, I know, that's exactly it, and it will probably happen in this meeting as well, because a lot of it seems to be a laundry list of grievances for for items that seem to be amiss, or somebody wants to get their 2 cents in about something. I'm here. I was elected to get town business done, so I'm going to continue getting town's business done. Before we move on to the next item, though, I do have a member of the public that would like to speak, because I do have a member of the public here. Yes.
I just saw John went out of the meeting. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
John Weingold left the meeting. I just saw that notification. I don't know if it was storm related or a choice.
Who knows? Let's continue, shall we?
Well, didn't we talk before about how if there was storm related things we move? Everyone else is on, so maybe it's obviously not storm related. I don't know.
It could be a tantrum, Justin. I mean, I have no idea. You know what? The phone lines do work. So if the internet is down, I would assume we move in. Justin, if you'd like to make a motion to adjourn, that you're certainly welcome to do so. Or I would continue with some of the other items over here. And if John, if he's not able to reconnect, then we can certainly adjourn and save all these things for next time. I do want to get to your ethics determination, since that is very important.
Which can't be talked about with one person, right?
Oh, we got to vote on it. Nah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So let's talk about something that you can talk about over here.
Hey Steve.
Yeah.
I just have a couple of questions. In the Concom, we tried to take care of, this is Nancy Tomasovich. We tried to take care of emergency stuff first, and then move the older stuff up, so it doesn't keep getting continued to the end, and like just orders of business would go more at the end. You can try that. That may work for you.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to take a look. I'm going to take another look at this agenda business over here, because I think it's getting into the weeds.
And then I just have a quick question. I'm just curious. So for the new HR person, so there's 5 towns involved. What is Monterey's share in the cost of that for this salary for a full-time HR person?
That was raised and appropriated by a town meeting?
Actually, I wrote a grant for $75,000, so there is no cost to any of the towns this year.
Oh, there we go. So we got
a
grant.
Did you get the grant?
Yep. We got it?
Yes.
Yep.
So it's $75,000 for this person it would be by 5. So if we don't get another grant, it would be $15,000 that would have to go on the town warrant.
No. It'll be divided by the number of hours that we're using the person.
Right.
We are using it far less than the bigger towns.
It's proportional, I believe. Before we received the grant, I think the number was around $6,000. Around $6,000 prior to the grant.
So the current town administrator job description is HR, correct?
No.
And
It
most
shows
actually,
on your, it shows in your
Nancy,
job description HR.
and actually, Nancy, most town administrators actually are not HR, are not the HR
But
people.
on the current job description for the town administrator and how she was hired shows HR. And if we're going to have funds going out, if we cannot continue to get another grant,
Nancy, there are
why would
five.
the salary still be included? Why would that be included?
I understand that there are 5 towns participating in this program. All of them, most of them, I think, do have town administrators or town managers, and all of them are participating in this program because they are looking for a licensed, experienced human resource person, which I think
My
everybody would agree to.
My point is that the current town administrator was to be fulfilling that position and is being paid for that. But now, in the future, if we don't have another grant, those funds would be going to another person. And why is the current town administrator getting those funds for HR that is in her job description?
I understand your point.
So first off,
Yeah, that's my only point.
Okay, I understand your point. Okay.
And then when they decide to hire this person, is it a unanimous vote between all 5 towns of who they want to hire?
I'm sorry?
Shut me. So when, let's say there's the interview process, does it have to be a unanimous vote to hire this new HR person? Like every town would have to vote yes, all 5.
I don't have the answer for you.
Okay, I'm just curious. I mean, you could let me know, and then I'll let you move on. I know you're busy. But that's the only point I was trying to make. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, no problem. Let's go on to number 6 while we're this one has nothing to do with Justin. I think we can talk about this, and this is very interesting. So, Highway Planning Commission. So we were under the impression that the Highway Planning Commission was a bylaw. It actually appears as a bylaw. However, we actually did a little research, and it turns out that the Highway Planning Commission, which was voted on at town meeting in 1979, was actually voted to be a commission, not a bylaw. We've reached out to town council. I know you're as shocked as I am. We reached out to town council, and he corroborated this finding, which means that the bylaw that started the Highway Planning Commission is not a bylaw after all. This also is with the Salary Commission. They were both voted on in 1979. If anybody can get their hands on town meeting notes from them, and we can make them available. We actually have, and we sent them to board members. Justin, you received a copy of that?
Of the one-page research?
Of the one page, yeah, of the one pager that denotes the thing. So that's it. So which is going to be interesting because I don't know how that happened. I was not here in 1979, but we're going to do a little bit more research and determine what that is. So that's number 6. The item number 7, FY22 appointments, to continue the appointments. Now, Justin, I understand that if there's anybody here, if there's any department here that you need to recuse yourself, we're not going to be voting on that. But this is the last. This is the only page.
This is all the ones you did.
Okay, these are the ones that we did not do. So so I'm going to read down these appointments. We have not received any communications, Justin, from the chair, and therefore it would be, I believe it would be appropriate to go ahead and make the reappointments, and if the chair.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So so I'm just going to read the 1 year the 1 year terms. 1 year terms. Lake Garfield Working Group, 1 year Stephen Weiss. Lake Garfield Working Group, 1 year Greg Carnese. 1 year Lake Garfield Working Group, 1 year Steve Snyder. Lake Garfield Working Group, Alice Burke. Lake Garfield Working Group, 1 year Michael Germain. Records Access Officer, 1 year Melissa No. Records Liaison Officer for Select Board, 1 year, Melissa No. Town Council, Jeremiah Pollard, Esquire.
Hold.
Okay. And then, and so those are the ones that have names to it. I should let the public know there are vacancies, vacant positions that need to be filled. I'm just going to state them very quickly. ADA coordinator, which is a 1 year term. Materials recycling facility advisory board representative, that's a 1 year term. Memorial Day coordinator, 3 years. 3 years. Berkshire Regional Transit Authority representative. I thought Justin, you would.
Yeah, I think I am the BR. I think I am that.
Okay, so we voted for that.
Just skip that one, keep going.
Okay. Board of Appeals alternates, 2 members for 5 years. Board of Appeals alternates, 2 members for 5 years each. Conservation Commission for 3 years. Conservation Commission for 3 years. Field driver, don't ask me what that is. Historical Commission, 3 years. Historical Commission, 3 years. Historical Commission, 3 years. Historical Commission, 3 years. And Veterans Memorial Committee, 2 years. What's that? Okay, somebody's calling us from their rewire. So just want to say these are vacant positions to be filled. So before the holds, I vote. I will move. Other than the hold, I will vote.
Here's Tom. Tom, did you have something to say?
Yes, sorry, Tom.
There's a member of the planning board that is a vacancy also. That's
okay. Okay, we're going to add it to the list. And what's the term?
Till the next election.
not sure off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm told it's till the next election. So I move that we appoint Stephen Weiss, Greg Cornese, Steve Snyder, Alice Burke, and Michael Germain for 1 year each in the Lake Garfield Working Group. Melissa No for 1 year as a public records access officer, and 1 year Melissa No for the records liaison officer for Select Board. Do I have a second?
Second.
I vote yes.
Yes.
John Weingold is not in attendance, but the quorum being held, motion carries. Then, okay, the town council. You have a hold on there, Justin? What's up?
Yeah, I'd like to look into negotiating with new town council. I've talked to a lot of people to try to get a sense of what their thoughts are on town council and the history. Obviously, I haven't had many dealings with town council personally, but I've tried to do some research and talk to reliable people, and I think it would be in the interest of the town and the town government and the people who live in our town to look into a firm like Copeland and Page for our town council.
So, that's your opinion is noted. I've been a member of the Monterey Select Board for 6 years. There's been a great deal of legal activity in this town. I can tell you from personal experience that we're lucky in Monterey to be able to have direct access to the lawyer that we actually hire for legal services. It's my understanding that Copeland Page is well appropriate for very large towns. There's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to talk to a partner at Copeland and Page, or the town as a town representative. That the billing dynamics of a large firm such as Copeland and Page will double or possibly triple the town of Monterey's legal fees. What I would suggest is that we get proposals from a few different law firms in town as to what their actual billings, what they actually bill for, because I read a proposal that was sent to me from Copeland and Page that actually didn't even identify what a retainer agreement would look like. They just gave billable hours and a promise that they would work it out. So that to me is not an adequate proposal. And we do currently have a legal counsel that is involved in several suits. And I think that during this time when we do reach out to firms, that we maintain our legal counsel. So that would be my recommendation.
I understand your point about availability, but I'm of the understanding that our current town council has not always been the timeliest person in terms of getting back to people, which I understand may be a common problem when you're dealing with the law. But I think it's in our best interest to move on and try to get a deal. I guess I know Copeland and Page does a lot throughout Berkshire County, including towns as small as Mount Washington. So while it may be a bit more money, maybe we can work something out, negotiate a contract with them this year. But yeah.
So right now, I cannot make an apples to apples comparison when it comes to how expensive a firm like that is going to be. And also, I can tell you from town and life experience that a large firm is not going to be more accessible than a small firm. So I can right now.
Excuse me, Steve.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm talking. Let me finish my comment, please. Okay. I think that again, I can reach out to our current counsel and actually get an appointment the same day or the next day. And it's been my experience with large firms. I have not dealt with Copeland and Page. That is not the case. And since it's my job to seek legal counsel on the behalf of the taxpayers of Monterey, then I believe it's prudent to at least remain with the current services until we know the difference between the two. We need to come up with a basic scope of services and find out how much are you going to charge me for a retainer. If the town pays right now X number of dollars as a retainer and the town people have raised and appropriated that amount of money, then if you get another firm that's going to charge double or triple that amount of that retainer, then we're going to have a special town meeting in order to have that discussion. And we can certainly have that vote with the townspeople as well. But it's not just, again, it's not as simple as, well, a lot of folks don't like this guy, so we're going to try this other person. This is going to be significant. We already had in this meeting a member of the select board saying, well, I don't want to pay the bill because I think it's too high. Do you think the bills are going to be higher or lower with a firm that seems to charge a higher hourly rate? The fact is that if I'm going to be able to negotiate, I'd probably be easier to negotiate with a smaller firm than a larger firm. But be that as it may, I need to find out how much somebody's going to charge for a retainer, and match that against how much we pay for a retainer.
Well, we might have to negotiate it with what we've appropriated this year, and maybe they'd be willing to work on that with us in the negotiations. I think it might be important for people listening just to hear who KMP does in Berkshire County. Beckett, Clarksburg, Dalton, Florida, Great Barrington, Hinsdale, Lenox, Lanesboro, Mount Washington, New Ashford, North Adams, Peru, Sanesfield, Sheffield, West Stockbridge, and Williamstown. So their taxpayers at the least have found it in the budget, which doesn't mean we necessarily will, but it's not like they are reserved for huge cities. And I think
we've already made the deal for this fiscal year. So unless another law firm agrees to take that amount of money as a retainer, then we would have to raise and appropriate additional funds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why.
Justin, may I ask a question? May I ask a question?
Sure.
So if their fees are a little bit more and all these other small towns are somehow being able to afford this, if you have an attorney that puts the town in harm's way by giving opinions that are inaccurate, which I personally had myself, or writing contracts that put the town in harm's way, or lose legal battles that could cost the town millions of dollars, and you're worried about a retainer and trying to appropriate the funds for that?
Okay, so Nancy, you and I are not attorneys, and therefore cannot make a conclusion on legal services and how they're rendered. I understand.
I know from my own dealings with him, he's made mistakes on his determinations, and it was proven legally.
Yes. Okay. I understand your point, and I'm sure that other attorneys and law firms also, are. I'm assuming that you can say that about any kind of law firm. So, but the point is well taken, Justin. If you want to get an actual retainer cost versus cost analysis from it, then we will we can certainly look at it. However, right now we do need town council to finish up.
Don has a hand up.
Oh, sorry, Don. Yes. Oh, where'd he go?
Don left.
Maybe he's he's probably having a drink with John Weingold.
Maybe the power is out on that side of town.
Yeah. So
it's my understanding that if we don't reappoint people on the June 30th deadline and we don't appoint someone else, they kind of continue in this limbo state of still technically being our town council. But I'm hesitant to appoint someone that I think it's in the best interest of the town to replace. So I'd rather not appoint anyone to town council this evening.
Okay. Rather than make a motion that will fail, we will continue this conversation. But I'm telling you that we need to make an apples to apples comparison. Tom, you have your hand up.
Just a quick comment. It seems like that the interest is there, so maybe for this year it's too late to do that. But in preparation for the future, if the town's not satisfied with council, then an RFP should be prepared and sent out to whatever firm is appropriate, so that the information's there to make the right decision.
So Tom, I think it's important to follow the best practices for hiring and looking for people, but I believe, and Melissa can correct me because she would know, but I believe legal counsel is exempt from some of those same processes, like having an RFP and that kind of thing.
I would think you'd be able to do it in any case, even informationally, to understand the billing schedule of different firms. And
one thing is that I guess we could reach out to other towns, but K&P has like half of Berkshire County, more or less, or they have a lot of towns.
Yeah, I'm not saying any one is better than another.
But I mean,
Steve and Justin, you have a legal problem that you've got to ask counsel about. He's appointed for a year. If you don't appoint him before the new year starts, then a question may arise as to whether he can represent you, the town, and on what terms. So I suggest to you that you get in touch with him and discuss that, because it's a year-to-year contract.
Thanks for your input, Don. I am of the understanding.
Attorney can be dismissed at any time. He's not an employee, and he didn't even sign the handbook.
Right. So Nancy, we're let's just continue over here. Hey, here comes John Weingold. Oh, John's back.
understanding, Don, that if we don't reappoint people, they aren't immediately unappointed, but I could be wrong on that.
Council had previously told me that not appoint, as long as you didn't say that you weren't reappointing someone, that you just didn't act on the reappointment, that they're kind of in a limbo state until you make an official decision that they are not going to be reappointed.
Okay.
What are we discussing? KP law?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
We were talking about, we went through our reappointments and we appointed everybody on the list except for Jeremiah Pollard for town council. And I said that I did not want to appoint Jeremiah Pollard because I thought it was in the best interest of the town to look for new town council.
But Justin, you have no idea how much
completely
it's actually
agree.
going to cost the taxpayers, and that's the problem. You've got no idea how much it's actually going to cost the taxpayers. Shall I say it a third time for you have no idea how much it's going to cost the taxpayers. In addition,
Right, but you have no idea how much it's going to cost the town with incorrect opinions,
Nancy,
contracts that are not good, all that
your point,
stuff.
your point is well, Nancy, your point is well taken. Please allow me to continue. And so therefore, I would like to see a cost, a apples to apples comparison between law firms so that we know exactly how much it's going to cost the taxpayers.
That was in the proposal. If you had read the proposal, the hourly rate was in the proposal.
I actually did read the proposal, and the proposal actually does not specify, since we do have a retainer agreement with current council, the proposal does not specify an amount for retainer. It says, if you want to have a retainer, we'll talk about it. That's what it says. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but that's what it says. I actually did read it, but thank you for bringing that up. We have minutes
Justin, if you make a motion,
There was no motion made on the reappointment of Jeremiah.
We'll make a motion
I do think, I was wondering if maybe they didn't put a retainer because they might be willing to negotiate. Like this year, obviously, we have a set budget, but I also see Susan as a hand.
Susan?
Yep, sorry, it takes a minute to turn the mic on.
No problem.
So I just like clarification on something. I totally agree with both Justin and Steve that it makes sense to have a proposal that's clear and complete. I am unclear on if you do not, what happens if you wanted to go forward with that and you wanted to have the option to pick up a different representation during this fiscal year? Is there a way to go about that? Does it come down to either you reappoint Jeremiah today or you have no representation? I mean, with a lease, if you have a yearly lease, it can also revert to month. What's the situation with the way? Well, it can, right? And it can go to month, and then even though you had a lease, I don't know how it works with this. If you don't reappoint for the full year, is that an option? Can you reappoint for a period of time less than a year while you investigate this?
I'm sure you can appoint for less than a year.
My understanding is that it's best to not make any motion to enter that state of limbo, and obviously we would need to negotiate. I mean, if it was really too much and it didn't fit in our budget,
oh my God,
and it didn't fit in our budget this year, period, then we couldn't do it. But I would like to enter into those types of talks.
Fair enough. So if you can get the information necessary, and we can have that discussion. Can we move on, or do you want to beat this horse more?
Why don't we just appoint
I'd like
KP
to
law
make a
and-
motion to approve the minutes of June.
So you're not reappointing Jeremiah Pollard? You're not doing anything but do more research, right?
Yeah, no one made any motions.
Well, I make a motion that the town of Monterey appoint KP Law as their official town council.
without any negotiations?
Yeah, it's
You're not going to be able to negotiate a fee with them. That there is the fee. They cut the fee because we're a small town. It's per hour, just like every other lawyer in the state. They charge per
But
hour.
we are currently, the town of Monterey is raising, the people, the taxpayers of the town of Monterey is raising appropriated a retainer amount that's payable to the current law firm. That is the amount that is that's available. So
Really? No
you'd have to negotiate a retainer from any other law firm, and that retainer would have to match the amount that was raised and appropriated at town meeting. Otherwise, we'd have to have a special town meeting in order to modify the amount of money that was raised and appropriated for new council. And it's my understanding, but maybe Mr. Coburn would want to fill in over here. I don't. What happens for existing suits that current town council is involved in? They have to start from scratch.
I did
You can't
see
get
in the
legal
KP
opinion from an
proposal.
out-of-state attorney, first of all.
That
So his legal
I did-
opinions in this state are completely useless.
I did
And
see
illegal.
that in the KP law proposal that they were willing to transition with existing ongoing
Right.
cases, I believe.
So you'd have to determine, Justin, how much that would cost, how many hours it would require for them to get up to speed, and how much they would charge per hour, because that would have a negative impact on the amount of money of legal fees that we have raised and appropriated in the town of Monterey. And this is another parameter that could get very expensive for the town.
Yeah, if you take an analysis of the amount of hours that Jeremiah provides the town and divide it into the appropriation, I think the difference between Jeremiah's hourly fee and the hourly fee of KP Law was like $25, if not less. So,
So
they
this
will
is
work with our budget. I mean,
this analysis
investigate
seems
all
like
of
you're
them.
pulling out of the air, and therefore, it's not. If you want to be
Tomorrow we
prudent,
have no
Justin,
contract with Jeremiah. So,
yeah. Okay. Shall we move on to other items?
what's been
I think
decided?
your motion wasn't seconded.
Right. So item number 8, approve the minutes of June 16th, 2021.
Just received edits from Justin, so I'm not ready.
All right, so we just received some edits over here, so we're going to table that and move it to the next meeting. Review mail and any correspondence to be sent or signed. Do we have anything? No. Okay. Number 10, master plan.
You asked me to add it on there.
Oh, so yeah. So I asked. Sorry, I asked to. So Monterey. The last time Monterey had a master plan was 2003, 2002. Tom.
Yeah, I think it was 2002.
Okay. I read that master plan when I first got on the board, and which is very interesting, and I recommend that the board members actually read it. I think what's interesting here is some, while things have basically been the same, I think there's maybe an opportunity to revisit some aspect of it. Now I'm looking to pay for it in grants if there's a possibility. But one thing that it doesn't that I don't recall it talking about was the 11 acres that the town owned land by the fire pavilion. Do you recall that, Tom?
I don't remember it addressing it specifically, no.
Okay, so here's something that could be possibly significant for the town of Monterey. Here's 11 acres of land that the town owns that is walking distance to town center. While we did have a discussion about possibly using some or all of it as a solar field at one point, it's really basically a wooded area and might be appropriate for some sort of anything from senior housing to or some other sort of housing or some sort of combination of things. I think this is where I should note that John Weingold has left the room because I guess we're just only talking about future housing in Monterey, which is not really that important. So to continue the discussion, this is a huge opportunity for Monterey to look at the possibility of allowing folks to either stay in Monterey but in smaller spaces, or build some kind of walking village center or something like that. And I think it's important that the town begin the process of at least bringing in a master plan, trying to augment the master plan with a discussion of those 11 acres and how they may possibly impact the town of Monterey in the future. So, so that's the reason why I brought it. We have a real opportunity here, and I understand that everybody likes to fight about other things, but this is something that will actually benefit the people of Monterey in the future. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the planning board is very willing to take up the effort of a master plan. We did discuss it on several occasions. I've been on the planning board for quite a few years, 5-7 years, something like that. We've discussed it previously at times and looked at the previous master plans, and amongst the planning board didn't have an overwhelming majority to take that up, along with the cost associated with it. We did reach out to the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to just understand what kind of dollar amount does it take to do a master plan. Mm-hmm. And there's two methods. You can hire the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, who has consultants, to do it, or you can hire your own separate consultant. And depending on how much information you have, the extent of what you want to do, he gave a ballpark estimate of $25,000 to $30,000 to do a full master plan from scratch. We didn't get into, well, can you just revisit portions of it? Because if we look at, okay, do we want to reconsider the zoning areas, or do we want to look at the wetlands delineation, or do we want to look at, there's a lot of things in Monterey that haven't changed, as you said, that we felt like, do we really want to pay $30,000 to have somebody Xerox the one that was done in 2002 and hand it back to us? So at that point we said, well, we don't feel like that's an effort we wanted to undertake, but with the refocus on it, we're certainly willing to, given if the funds are available.
And didn't we receive a grant for the last master plan? Or do you recall?
I don't know that.
Or not. I mean, obviously, this is something that would make sense to if there's a grant available, and that's one thing that I also wanted to get permission from the board to ask our grant writers to if they would to do some kind of basic research on if there are grants available to pay for this, because this is expensive. Yeah, mm-hmm. and that's the reason why towns don't do master plans often. However, since it's it's almost going to be 20 years between the last, and especially since we're if we should, I would really be interested in what the planning board's ideas were on this, and if the board will if the board is okay with it, I would consider reaching out to the grant writers and seeing if they can do a little research to find out if there is grants for a master plan or partial grant for a master plan.
Yeah, being a board to serve the public, I would want to make sure that embarking on a master plan that the select board and the planning board want is of minimal value. However, just making sure that the town is up for appropriating that kind of money. You've seen what happens when new and inventive things like renovating a property on Route 23 or something like that comes in front of a lot of, there becomes some interest. So if we propose a master plan, my hope would be that it would get some interest and we'd get some public support for it. Because the planning board is not interested in doing a master plan as an island of the planning board.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think that sounds good. And if we just asked our grant writer, Steve, we got $10,000 in that budget, right? So were you talking about hiring like Dennis to do some research, or just asking Melissa to do some research, or?
Well, so the town administrator would coordinate the research request through the other two grant writers, and we would see basically what's out there. There may be nothing out there. If we begin now, again, we're going to be. This is if there isn't money, then we're going to have to talk about it, during annual town meeting. But who knows? There might be some funds out there, and we can begin the process early. But at least we should start talking about it, so we can start the ball rolling. So I guess yes, we give the approval to the town administrator to coordinate a grant research on payment for a master plan. That would be my motion.
And just one more comment. I think at the very least, we should make sure it gets on the agenda for the next town meeting, because that's where I think, for whether we need to appropriate 30,000 or $1 if we've gotten a grant, that's where we would really, I hope, get a sense as to whether the town really wants to undertake that effort.
So do you think it's appropriate for the planning? So would the planning board do you think they should have a vote to move this thing forward, or is that going to require anything from
Amongst the planning board?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and we decided not to do it to try and undertake it along with the money. But if the town said that we should do it, then we will. I mean, if you look at the function of a planning board, creating a master plan is like job one.
Right. Well, I've got no problem having a professional, do the lion's share of it, but obviously we're going to have to pay for it. Okay. So
Just before we vote, Mike has a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mike? Have a hand.
I just wanted to let the board know that, the power's flickering in Monterey, and it froze a couple times and got booted off.
You got booted off?
That's correct. My Fiber Connect router disconnected.
Oh, we should have kept that money in the account after all. Okay, so well, listen, if we feel that if we want to stop there and table it for the next meeting, so I've got no problem with adjourning.
Mm-hmm. And Mary, I don't know who Mary is, but Mary has a hand.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah.
It's Mary Maycook. Just a quick issue, because I'm not sure if this is really pertinent to it at all. And I know it sounds like we're just about to adjourn, but you're talking about the master plan, and I understand it looks like you might need a grant or appropriated money to get the master plan going. So it wouldn't really start to happen until next year. Maybe, and maybe I didn't hear that correctly, but we do have seniors looking for, asking about affordable housing. Do we need a master plan to look into affordable housing, or we can just move ahead with looking into that if enough people from Council on Aging, et cetera, are interested? We don't really necessarily need the master plan to start researching that, right?
No, I think it can run in parallel. Tom, got more experience in this.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to conform to the current bylaws, but.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, Mary, that was my inspiration. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I'm a smart guy, but I didn't come up with this. This was Julio. I remember Julio came to the board many years ago with this idea of possibly using that 11 acres for, senior housing or some derivation of it, because it's walking distance to town center. So right. I got to give credit where credit is due over there. Yes, I think, I mean, again, as long as it conforms to bylaws, I think we can do a parallel. We can certainly do a parallel course, but I think we should start having a discussion about it. at least let's talk about something that we can create over here in town, if possible, if there's money for it.
Right, thank you.
Go ahead, Mary, sorry.
No, I was just saying thank you. I'm signing off.
I think the way it would go is you'd make a zone available for senior housing, low-income housing, however you termed it, and then you would still need investors, and unless the town felt like it was going to raise an appropriate money to actually build the housing, you'd still need an investor. You're a real estate person, Steve. You'd still need someone willing to invest the money to improve the land, build the buildings, go through all the hoops to make it happen. So it's not something that just because we say you can build housing there doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at least let's start having the discussion about it. I mean,
Absolutely.
And see where we get to. All right. So folks, if it's okay, Justin, what do you think? Shall we call it a day?
Yeah.
Okay. So
The one we didn't get to 5, and then.
could I?
But we can't. But I just want to make.
That's right.
I just want to clarify what will 5 and 11 through 22.
So I'm going to make that number 1 on the agenda for next, if that's okay with you, Justin, so that we can get it out of the way.
Well, I'll be out of the room either way. So.
Okay. So, folks, and it's just some ethics paperwork that we're going to clear up, but we're going to do that because we have to vote on it. Justin can't vote on it, so and it looks like John Weingold is gone again. All right, so then be that as may, so I make a motion that we actually adjourn.
Second.
Until July 7th.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Isn't there an opportunity? Is there an opportunity for to be heard before you recess?
Yeah. What would you like to say?
May I be heard?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Well, it seems to me, in the interest of transparency, that the select board has an obligation to disclose to the public that we now know that on April 30th, one of the selectmen, John Weingold, June 30th, April 30th, John Weingold filed a complaint in the Superior Court of Berkshire County seeking $300,000 in damages from the town and others. And I'd like to know whether the board is going to be taking action with respect to that.
So it's my understanding that, first of all, that we're not going to, it's not on the agenda, and so we're going to, and since it's not, it doesn't seem to be pertinent for discussion, since it is just a filing and it's not a, there hasn't been service, so we're going to not have, and we're not going to put it in the agenda until that time. Don, yeah.
Wasn't Don chair at that time?
So
you're going to ignore it for now?
So I'm going to make a. So
has it been turned over to our insurance company?
So we were following all the recommendations of the insurance of our insurance company, but again, we're not going to be having a discussion about it until it becomes an actual legal matter, and we're going to put it on the agenda. It's not on the agenda for tonight, and I think, and because of the power situation, we may lose power. So I, again, Justin, did you make a motion to adjourn?
You made a motion. I seconded it.
Okay, so I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Okay, we'll see you on July 7th. Stay tuned, everybody.
Thank you.